Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, we are depending on you guys to be a part of this conversation. This conversation will go on in a stage 2. They're going to be back. However, today, I want you guys to participate because we have lots of questions that should be asked and lots of statements that you guys are putting up. It is awesome. So, Stephanie, tell us your view on the question that was asked to Daniela.
So my interest in art has always been with me throughout my life. My mother was a teacher, and she had different ways of involving the students in art in different forms. So for Carnival, I would be helping her making costumes. So the children would understand the art form. And so if we playing butterflies, it was, there were different, if you know how Carnival was organized, it was educational also. So you would learn different butterflies, and you will actually make the butterfly, and you will either have a standard or a headpiece to reflect the butterfly. And if it's a yellow butterfly, you know it's that particular butterfly, what genus it was.
Yes.
You know, so it can be incorporated, and it can be a learning tool for children to learn numeracy, literacy, and help them to understand geography. So if you're doing Greece, you understand when she would do the costumes, and we're doing whatever under the sea, you will do corals. So it can be a teaching tool. Art can be used in a meaningful way. She used to use it to educate the children. So children learn differently. Some children learn visually. Some learn, you know, different ways and means of learning. So that was my whole ethos with art. And then I loved art. I was very artistic at school, but I wanted to be a nurse. I was able to incorporate my ability to draw as a nurse. Even now, I still use that ability. So if I have a client and I'm speaking to the client about the uterus, I'm able to make a diagrammatic representation of the uterus and show her where she's at. So art should be seen and embraced, you know. And as a nurse, if you want to do like the cardiac cycle, or you want to do cardiopulmonary cycle, or you want to teach a woman fetal respiration or whatever, you can, if you can draw, you'll be able to do it very easily instead of using big words and all of that to the client. So people need to understand the importance of art.
Of art, yes.
And it can be used to help children, because children, especially children with special needs, they learn differently, you know. And culturally,
Dr. Daniela want to say something.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to add to Stephanie's comment, because I think it's so important, and it's actually part of a new concept that I'm introducing here to the museum at NAGB, National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. This idea of interdisciplinary areas of entering art. That at times, you know, we think that, you know, the arts is to, you know, I mentioned it a bit earlier, but the arts are mainly to be viewed, and you think of it in a cultural sense or some type of historical sense, in a social movements or a certain moment in history or time. But there are so many other aspects to art, like what you're rightfully saying, that you can learn so much about through artistic practice. So, for example, what is referred to as kinetic art, where it's like art in motion, or sculptural art that's in motion. There's so many things happening there in engineering, in mechanics, that you can use those aspects of it, of how it's made, to teach students about engineering who may be not necessarily enticed about learning about engineering from sitting in a classroom. But you teach them how to make a sculpture, and this sculpture is moving, and they're learning many things at once. They're learning about art, they're learning about mechanics, they're learning about mathematics,
Yes.
They're learning aspects of science.
And aerodynamics, because some of them will be able to know that, you can go up and stay up. And what does it take to keep that
Physics.
art up there in motion?
Exactly. And then, the whole process of ceramics, of making
Oh,
clay.
we have some teachers coming in here. This Cedra Beard Lewis, she's now Dr. Cedra Beard Lewis. She was teacher and she still teaches. She's saying many times, you see, I was to change my glasses. The light that we have around us is bringing such a blotch that it's creating a problem here for me. Many times I have a co-host. She can read. Stephanie, can you read that?
Many times the dominant political groups in a community controls the direction and temperature of what happens, arts included. So they want to imply that, because of political dominance, certain cultures have precedence over others.
Right. And I think that really does happen in sort of national institutions. So when you're looking at, a national curriculum, they're very, the outcomes of a national curriculum are clear from the onset. And this is why I think it's so important to have informal modes of education to complement formal modes of education. So your child receives a holistic view of things rather than what's only taught in school. And that's the importance of museums and community centers and going to festivals and receiving even, looking at TV shows. It could be very simple. Family education models too. So, yes.
See, Jabir is there again. She said, if there are independent minds, a better product, yes, relative to the art form can be achieved and ultimately impact and improve the learning experience of all.
Right, yes. Yeah, of course, yeah. And I think those independent minds that she may be referring to are either art school teachers who have decided that outside of what they are, what they basically have to teach in a curriculum, they are going to add, and I've done the same when I was teaching in New York, I would add artists to our curricula that may not be, so I would see a curricula that didn't include any Caribbean artists, and I will add those artists to my teaching, or I'll add readings that are more expansive than what is being offered through the curriculum. So yeah, it could just be the initiative of the teacher, the initiative of the student, or the initiative of the family or the community that the student is coming from. But those informal modes of engagement are critical.
So should we, Odette, George is saying, what about cross culture art?
Cross culture art. I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to, but it could mean
it's a she.
I'm not sure what she's referring to, sorry. But what I'm thinking of is maybe sort of creolized art forms where there are many different aspects of different cultures in an art form fused. Right, I think she means fusion. So that is an aspect of my research as well. And when we look at carnival, carnival is a creolized art form. It's coming from influences of Europe, influences of India, influences from, and this is aesthetically and also in practice, in performance and music, everything, calypso music, everything. So those kind of cross-cultural conversations, I think, need to be brought to the forefront. The carnival is a really inclusive in the sense that it's a melange of many different countries and cultures coming together.
Yes, I like how Dr. Cedra Beard addressing you as doctor. Please, people, address her as doctor. She worked so
Cultural
For her
integration, yeah.
doctorate.
to get that degree. So please, everybody, Dr. Fifi, we welcome you as Dr. Fifi, and we are happy for you, and the audience is showing their respect also.
Thank you, Mama Coco.
I think
Yeah.
Stephanie, she has something to say. We are going into another question, Stephanie, so give us
I would
your
like
view
to
now.
say, in terms of fusion,
Mm-hmm.
England has been it was quite amazing, the fusion that occurs in England, because I came from Tobago and cultures I taught were predominantly Trinidadian. I recognize where the origins come from. For example, even Calypso. Calypso is an art form where people are like, they were like the first set of newspapers, really. They would tell you what was currently occurring in the community.
Yes.
And they were the link between the haves and the have-nots. And it originated from Africa. And even within the Indian diaspora, because I live in the West Midlands, which is quite cosmopolitan, and there is fusion. There is fusion. So sometimes when I want to get food, I go to the Indian shop and I would get what I'm used to. I would get,
your curry, everything.
I would get my curries, I would get my food and whatever. So there is a fusion, really. And it's quite fluid. It's quite fluid. And even
fusion in marketing. Wow.
Fusion is there. And even like when I want to get clothes, I can't go to Trinidad to get it, but I could go to an Indian or African shop and get it. It's not a matter of where you get it, it's what you want and how you would just be able to adapt it to what you're used to, because cultures are quite diverse. And when you migrate, you know how you identify people culture from their Sunday lunch, really. Regardless of whether you're living in Jamaica, wherever. If you're Jamaica, you eat rice and peas, even if you're in the King's Palace. Yeah? And as a Trinidadian, you want your cuckoo, and your callaloo, or you want your pilau. And that breaks all barriers. It breaks all glass ceilings. You understand? And sometimes you interacting with somebody from another culture and you realize how linked you are. Because I have had dynamic links with Nigerians and Ghanaians. And I'm Trinidadian, but there's a common link. And I could relate to Indians and Pakistanis because there's a common link. Curry is a curry is a curry. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where the fusion takes place. And in the melting pot of England, you see there is no kind of divide because we're so small, you can't say, well, all of us small, so we have to aggregate. You understand?
Yes.
In order to survive.
Yeah.
So that's my little bit.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And it's therapeutic too. It's therapeutic. So, when you can't get your callaloo, it bothers you, and it's comfort food in winter, in the middle of winter, and nice callaloo does good on good. What do you think about that, doctor? Could you identify with that? Could you relate to that?
Oh yeah, of course. I think globalization has really connected. Mama Coco.
Listen where my laugh come in. Daniela already found a roti shop in the Bahamas,
Exactly. You don't know where the roti shop is. You have to find it.
Unless she tell you guys that she hasn't been down there for no 6 months yet,
Yeah, I know. The first thing I have to identify when I go to any new place is where is the roti shop?
Because it's sustenance.
No, of course, food and culture bring people together. It's just a vital part of who we are socially as people, as human beings. So art is a very essential human experience.
Exactly.
Even though we marginalize it, is instrumental to who we are. It's part of our survival. Yes, no, I agree with you.
So you think that sometimes in home economics or in food, we should bring people in the parking lot cooking food and children observing and eating and buying, like, instead of paying $15 for a roti on that day, the roti should be $5 and $6. Make smaller roti, make doubles, but just bring the school a nice day of rice and peas. You understand me? A nice day with fried chicken wings.
Yeah.
In Trinidad and Tobago, we should start to change up the way we teach our children in order for our cultural food values to remain. What do you think?
Well, to be honest with you, that was my experience in home economics at Holy Name Convent. We would make food, and then we would have a potluck afterwards, and everyone would share everyone's food, and we would invite other students from other classes to come into our classroom and try our different dishes. And so I think that there was sort of embedded in us that food was a social thing in Trinidad. It didn't happen to sit on a dining table alone and eat in a formal setting, but it was part of just culturally sharing and with community. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think Bishop's High School had that same thing also. And I have a big surprise for many people. I don't know what is going to happen, how many people would accept my invitation. I sent out a lot to Bishop students past. I don't know about the present students right now, but we're gonna have a day on our life. I'm not trying to segregate schools, but I'm just trying to say I'm going to be featuring high schools. And not right now, the students of the past, so that they can help to frame the guideline for today and for the future. Because a lot of things that was done in the past in high schools in Tobago, we don't practice them anymore. And I believe it's going on in Trinidad also. So we have to get back to the basic. Yes, Stephanie, we are there, and we have other questions coming up.
One thing I want to incorporate, how we could tie all these things in. We know Carnival is color. Now, I am no longer doing frontline nursing, but I'm involved in public health. So art and color could be incorporated in helping people to maintain proper health. So when you're doing a plate of food, right, if you want to incorporate and teach people about a balanced diet, you could incorporate color, because you see people want to tell you to count calories and all of that. But if you put different color foods on your plate, I teach simple patients like that, patients who don't read labels and count. You tell them, if whatever is seasonal, you put some green on your plate, some yellow,
some red.
If you put all of that on your plate, you end up with a balanced diet. And then now with infographics, people who are not literate, even if there are language barriers, because where I work, I have diverse cultures with different language barriers. Right. And that has been part of my study, using infographics to communicate with people who I have been in a room with everybody is Black and nobody could understand each other. But infographics break down those barriers, and that is artistic.
Right.
It's universal. So we can use it in a positive way. And that's why I embrace public health, because you need to get messages onto people very quickly without being mundane, and being able to meet them at the point of need and improve their health.
Yeah.
So that's where I look at my artistic background, helping me to communicate with patients across the board. I have had Chinese patients, Somalian patients. They don't understand me, but they know color. And I have used it in a positive way. Right. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Well, we have to move along. Okay. We will be back so we can touch many other stuff, because we have the clinical part of this show to speak about, and we are already 1 hour and 20 minutes. Not I want to force it on you guys, but today is Sunday, and I'm trying my best, Mama Coco, you better try your best, to really keep timing in order.
Yes.
So that people would stay on for the hour and a half or the 2 hours, and we get our points on. So Dr. Daniela Fifi, tell us about your findings of your doctoral studies. Give us a mini summary.
Okay, sure. So my doctoral research was a multi-study method, just meaning that there were two aspects to it. One was a historical narrative that I wrote about the artist Jeffrey Holder.
One
Yes.
minute. Before we move further into your question, let us thank Stephanie Thomas for that great interjection that she just
Yes.
bring there with
Yes.
the color with food. Because
Yes.
you see, sometimes we have to eat with our eyes. And once you feel content visually, sometimes, not all the time, some food does look good, but it tastes horrible. You understand me? We have to make the content what we saw and we go after it. And if it's palatable, if it's great, sometimes it's not great, but because how we look, we will take it down because we see the nutritional factor of that meal. So please say something here as we congratulate that idea and that profoundness from Stephanie.
I think what I really enjoyed about what Stephanie said was the aspects of, color coding for food and public health, but also art as a means of assisting populations with illiteracy or populations that have different linguistic barriers. So right now we have an exhibition at the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas that the purpose of it, or one of the purposes, is exactly that. But how do you deal with that in periods of crisis? Because we're going through COVID right now. We have populations here in the Bahamas that do not speak English, so may not be fully aware when, broadcasts are happening on the television or radio of what measures they're supposed to take to protect themselves.
You color code.
Right. We do not have, or there may be situations where, there are other avenues of not having access to important national information that may just be, in English. So what the art plays and the public art plays in situations like these is it transcends language barriers, and it also transcends illiteracy, because you see, a graphic or visual data and you would know, okay, you need to put on your mask because there is a full label of that. Artists can develop narratives through murals of what you should be doing in a community. So it becomes vital that you have other avenues.
So what are we seeing here?
This is the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas' website. And this is the team that I currently work with. Amanda Coulson is the current executive director. Diana Sands is our development and communications manager, and Katrina. So these are the different folks that you're seeing.
And we saw your picture there. So who are you?
Yes. And I am the chief curator.
Good for you.
I'm the chief curator at the National Art Gallery. So
Trini girl, hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Fifi. Hello. Yes,
This is our national collection. And you can sort of flip through each one of these pieces and get a sense of our current collection. We have contemporary art and also historical pieces. This is Antonius Roberts, one of the founding fathers of visual arts here. So it's a really
piece.
Oh no, the collection is extremely impressive. I think if anyone is to any one of our listeners here, or you, Mama Coco and Stephanie, ever come to the Bahamas, please visit us.
Yes.
Let me know that you're here. I would love to take you on a tour. We're now developing virtual tours, so if you would like to see the collection, you can do so online. We're developing a new website that's next year. Yeah, that's great. If we can see the online programs, that would be great too. So the exhibition that I was speaking about called Pulse.
Who's this?
Wow.
Yeah, so you have to scroll over the piece.
Is that Leroy?
It should be written on the piece, but I just can't see. I can't see well. Just a
It's
second.
lovely.
Yes, no, our collection is pretty impressive.
Very nice.
And
Wow.
Afrocentric too.
Yes, so it's a diverse collection.
Yes. Oh, look at the greenery.
Yes, landscapes.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah,
We definitely have to come there.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely have to come there.
So the face that you saw was by Stanford side, and it's called Solomon. And that was in, yes. And this piece, yeah. Those were the gates of the NAGB of the museum that you just saw featured.
Yes.
And those were those are still there. So when you visit, you would see them.
You know, when I was, when in times past, even in my daughter time in school, they used to have field trips, where they will take schools to Trinidad, or if it's Tobago, or Trinidad students may come up to Tobago. They didn't always do that very emphatically, but at the same time, I believe that students should be taken to museums, yes, as part of their vocational training for their mental research, for their personal mental research, because we're doing as if everything should be taught, but some things mentally will stay. Because sometimes you teach us things in school, but it doesn't stay. But a tour, a visit to a place, a visit to a site, yes, will keep the minds alive and alert, and always put you to inquire more. Oh, I saw, you know what she doing here, or how she dressed right now? I saw a picture in the museum.
Right.
I saw a picture from the 18th century. But look how he look right now. He looks like that. So, Dr. Daniela Fifi, we are impressed right now, and we are so elated. But here we have one more question here for you. This is not the only one, because we have questions coming up again. But this one, tell us your findings.
All right, of the dissertation.
Of your doctor, yes.
Okay, so my dissertation was a multi-method approach, meaning that there were two aspects to it. The first one was a historical narrative where I wrote a history piece on Jeffrey Holder. And I think we had began conversation with him a few questions ago. And he was a Caribbean Renaissance man. He was an actor. He was a choreographer. He was a visual artist. Yes. He was in music. He sang calypsos. He had a calypso festival in New York.
Wow.
He was multifaceted. And he was talented in everything that he did. He didn't do anything halfway.
Hey.
So I wrote a historical piece on him, and it's tied into this idea that, I couldn't find a lot of information on Caribbean artists that I was interested in when I was in school, or when I was doing my doctoral research, or when I would peruse museums outside of the Caribbean, and sometimes even within neighboring islands of the region. I wasn't seeing a sort of expansive view of artists. So I wrote that, and then in addition to that, I wrote from the history piece, I wrote a curriculum that's based on intercultural education about Jeffrey's work, and it being multidisciplinary, and it also being multi-pronged in the way that he presented the arts. That he didn't believe that one art was separate from the other, that they all sort of fused and supported each other. The art forms supported each other. So some of my findings were really related to how we develop curriculum.
Yes.
And traditionally, within arts education, it's been modeled in a way where art forms are a curriculum specialist would design the curriculum. Many iterations of that would develop through their own sort of focus groups within curriculum. And what I had done instead is I developed both curriculum and history writing, where I would write the historical narrative and then I would circulate that to a community of educators. They would make edits to what they believed would work in an art classroom or what needed to be added upon. And then iterations of the history writing would change depending on what were the teacher's needs in teaching. So that both the text and the model of how it was being taught in the classroom speak to each other. Mm-hmm. And what I found from that is, and I specifically looked at teachers who were teachers and educators that were teaching Caribbean arts. And I can give you just sort of a general idea because there were many findings, but some of them were that Caribbean arts cannot be taught in a classroom. A vast majority of teachers felt that way. And this is why I was emphasizing earlier that maybe, the national curriculum is one element of learning about Caribbean art, but it's really important that outside of a classroom, students are engaged. And many of the teachers that were participants of the study said that they felt as though Caribbean art forms had to be taught either in very large spaces or on the streets during carnival time, that was a classroom in itself, or that, constructing, a huge sculpture that may be linked to the king and queen of the band of carnival, that was another element of Caribbean arts education. So they wanted to move the school into the community or into sort of live art making in partnership with those who were already doing that. You didn't learn pan in school, that you learned pan in a panyard. You took the students there, and there are elements and nuances of learning about music and in its environment that you just can't teach in a classroom. So they were very, and they emphasized that a lot. So that was one of the findings. Where do you teach it? Where is appropriate to teach it? Another finding was related to how is it presented in text? How do you write about Caribbean art? And many of them spoke about the current texts that were available for them to teach from. There were stereotypes or sort of singular stories in the way that we were being presented. And that was both in the text in a classroom book or when you move into spaces like museums or galleries or other settings. So they felt that it was... So
what I'm trying to pick up here is that first we have to change the narrative. Right. Of Panyard visits and Panyard learning camps.
Right.
Because if you should study, long ago, people didn't want the children to go to learn pan. Or to go to a Panyard. Because we as older folks, we grew up knowing that they always have a fighting, a riot, and this kind of behavior. So you recommend that schools should still continue to teach young people pan?
Of course. Schools definitely should. Yes, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, that's part of our culture. Heritage. It's part of who we are. It's our heritage, exactly. Teaching in Panyards will have to be something that's, I think, would really need, long conversations to develop a partnership between the school and the Panyard. And parameters of parents feeling safe or whatever concerns the parents may have about their students or their children, being taught music in a Panyard will have to be addressed. But music teachers reported that they felt as though the classroom was not the environment for them to learn about music that was so integral to heritage,
to our culture.
Yeah.
And not even culture. We have to bring culture now into finances, although we don't know how much money the country does really make from carnival, and if we just using our instrument just to give people money, but how much is it bringing in? How much steel band music is bringing to our economic values of Trinidad and Tobago? That's a deep question. Maybe we have to answer that the next time, But then, basic. Can you say for sure that our country that started the pan is our economy making any money from pan music?
If I can say for sure, I can't.
No, not for sure. Can you just speak at the same level that I am? Do you know? And you think we should know more if the pan is really financial to our country, or other countries making more money with our pan music right now?
Okay, I think I know what you're referring to. And yes, I think that we should invest in our musical arts, and we should protect them. We should protect them from exploitation or any kind of outside forces. So yes, I agree with you. To say for sure if that is happening now, or if we are making money or losing money from our pan music, I could only speak anecdotally. So
yes,
yeah.
Stephanie, you have something to say?
I would like to say something. I think it will be a win-win situation if the classroom is moved out of the community or out into the community, because measures will be made proactively to make the community safer.
Right.
And persons who are not engaged in active work will be more valued, and they will see themselves at a different level, because they could be teachers. The environment will be safer as a result of having those panyards user-friendly for children to be in. You understand what I'm saying? So
yes, I do.
Measures will have to be made to make those areas safer. And certain areas that are no-go areas will become safer, because it has to be included. Whereas they are now, they could be ignored or marginalized, they will feel inclusive. Because the man from the hammer, where he came from.
You understand me?
The hammer, Desperados is one of the best pan sites, but is it an area where people could go in? If it's part of this curriculum, measures will have to be taken to make Desperados pan set more safe. The community will be safer.
That's a good point.
Will be safer. So it's a win-win situation. Japan, when I mean in Birmingham, when people busking a pan, you see people from all different cultures standing up. Some Chinese looking under the pan to see where the music coming from. We can have pan factories. We can use it in a more positive way. These marginalized areas that know how to produce pan, it could be an industry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I tried to get a pan to do one of my projects here, and it's very expensive, and it's hard to source a proper pan. So there could be an industry to make the covers to the pan. There could be industries to make the sticks, to make the pans themselves, different sizes of pans. You understand me? Because all cultures now aware of what the pan is like. It's the only musical instrument that was one of the most recently innovative musical instruments. We have different types of pans. We have electrical pans and all kinds of pans. We are very creative.
But the question still asks, you guys may not be able to give me the answer that the people may need. Do we profit from pan as a nation?
I cannot say.
Do
but
you
I can
think?
see the influence
Do you
of
think? Do you think we profit? And if we do, shouldn't we be told more about the financial part of the musical instrument that is of Trinidad and Tobago?
If we think of pan as the integral part of carnival, you know, of the way the carnival functions, then certainly we profit from pan. If it's interwoven to aspects of carnival. The
Because
degree to which, yeah.
you know, we're not going to stay on this because this is a deep topic.
deep.
Because what I am visualizing, sooner or later, pan will only be for competition.
Right.
You understand me?
Right.
DJs taking over the streets now on Carnival Day. Ain't nobody on pan except it on a truck.
Right.
The cultural dynamic of steel pan in Trinidad and Tobago is fundamentally dying. And we need to get back to understand pan.
Right.
And we need to know. Inquiring minds want to know.
Right.
Do we profit as a nation from the steel pan?
Well, I think in terms of the monetary functions of it, I can't speak distinctly on that, but the cultural currency of it, and what has sprouted from carnival and pan throughout the world. You have panorama and different festivals that have emerged through panorama in London, in Japan, in Toronto, in New York, all over the world. Certainly, pan has put Trinidad on on the map, on the forefront of, you know, pan is the only instrument that has been invented in the 21st century. So we have that. In that sense, we have claim to it. The monetary aspects of things, I can't really speak to. I can't speak to that.
Thank you. Well, you know what Mama Coco show is all about is to put the questions out there, not only in the minds of us that we should find answers where we don't have the answers because we were never given answers. You know, all we do is to just talk that it is our pan. Our pan. What do we gain from our pan? It's an individual profitable entity where people will go out and play music personally and make some money. But our nation